Welcome to Layering Textures. In this video you will learn how to layer textures using Blender Render. Understand this is a great way of checking out an effect quickly and simply. And we'll be having a glimpse at what other maps can do. So let's hop straight on over into Blender. Okay, so now that we're over in Blender, let's go and make this just a little bit more interesting. So first of all, we need to go and create a new texture. And the most straightforward way of doing that is over in the, here we go, Properties, and on the Textures tab. And we don't want to overwrite this one because that's giving us our base texture here. So we'll go to the next slot down and then click New. And the type of texture that we're going to do, well, I'm going to use a generated texture and I'm going to use noise for this, so it's all speckly. And that means I'll be able to add speckles to our pillar that we've got going on here. So now that I've done that, we need to paint with the new texture on the image. If we just apply the texture straight to this image, it will basically be the same size whether we zoom in or out, and that will ruin the effect. So now that we've generated this texture, what we can do is open up a UV image editor and let's create a new texture. So image, new, and I'm going to call this pillar bump because it's essentially going to create the bump effect that we want, and also some speckles as well. Now I'm going to name it 2048 on the end so I know that it's a 2048 texture in size. So there we go, that's all that done there. Now we have this blank image on the screen, we can open up the tool shelf in paint mode. So we'll change the mode to paint. And well, I want to add white as a part of my colour palette that's here. So I'm going to click on this brown area here and hue, saturation and value, HSV. I'm going to lower the hue and the saturation down to 0 and the value all the way up to 1. That's one way of making white. You can also do it RGB and put all the values at 1. Now I've done that, I'm going to click this little plus button here and it'll add it to the active palette, so I can switch between colours really quickly. In fact, I might get rid of this horrible green at one point, but that's beside the point. So let's scroll down on here and go to where it says texture mask. Now that we've got the texture mask, we can pick up the texture we've just created. So we've got texture 001, and that's the one over here. So I'm going to pick that up, I'm going to make my brush much bigger, and you can see there the effect that it's going to create is a kind of speckled effect. So we're going to go over, and I'm just going to, we've got some funny stuff going on there, went all square on me. So I'm going to do it again, but this time just clicking where I want to apply it. So I'm not quite sure where the squares came off. I think it's because I went off of the image itself. Okay, so now we've got this kind of speckly image going on. I can go down to image itself and save as image. And where do I want to save this? I want to save it in my textures folder. So pillar bump 2048 save. Brilliant. Now that we've got that, we can go back over to the textures tab here and change it from the generated type to an image itself. So we're going to change that to an image or movie. Now instead of going and opening it up, because it's already loaded into Blender, we can click this icon to the left and select pillar bump. And there we go. So now let's hop over to the 3D view and have a look at how we're going. Well, it's not appearing at the moment, and it won't do because you can only have the one texture applied in the solid texture mode at any one time. So what we need to do here, we do need to unwrap this and put it on the texture. So let's now grab a UV image editor and go into edit mode. Oh, we've got some pins still there, so I'm going to remove these pins completely before they decide to ruin my day. Select everything in the UV image editor and Alt and P, so that's now gone. And indeed I could unwrap it again. Oh, it's gone a bit slanted. That's not too much distortion and I'm happy with that for the moment. And we need to go and select the other pillar bump as well. Make sure that is applied, and we can have a look on our 3D object now and see how that goes out. It looks kind of like a lump of granite at the moment. That's quite a nice effect, but I think it probably a bit too dark for our environment that we're working on. So let's go ahead now and mix these two together. So we can go and Well, first of all, we need to view the material or rendered. And if we click those, you'll see it's dark. And that's simply because there isn't actually any light in the scene for Blender Render. We need to create a lamp. So I'm just going to do that now. And I'm going to create a lamp that it doesn't matter where it's positioned, just its direction. So there's the sun lamp, and it's looking straight down at the moment. So if I go and rotate that round to the side, we'll have one side view lit up. Perfect. That's really nice there. I can get rid of the tool shelf and that for the moment. And let's move that across. Okay, so that's looking really good. Now I'm going to go back to properties here and go to the textures, and we can have a look down the list and see how this is actually working. So you'll notice that even though texture 002, which I'm now going to name pillar color, and I'm going to name this other one pillar base, so I'm pillar bump, I think, so we can see what's going on. Now, even though this color one's on top, the order actually comes from the bottom upwards, which can be confusing. So if I turn off the pillar bump, you can see just the color going on there. And if I move the pillar color, so I can click on the texture itself and click one of these up and down arrows to the right, and it will move it up and down. Now, the way of blending these together, well, there's several ways of doing it, but we'll need to scroll down and remember which one you've got selected, because when you scroll down, that's the properties that you're going to be changing. So I'm just going to minimize the image thing here. Mapping. Now, we've got UV mapping. That is important if you want full control over the texture. So I'm happy with that, so I'm going to hide that, and both of them have got that. Now, the influence is what we want to focus on. Now, we've got different blend types, but I'm just going to leave it on mix for the moment. Now, if I turn the color value down, you'll find that the other one starts showing through. So that's almost like the factor when we move things left and right when we're dealing with a cycles node. And we can change what they're used for as well. So at the moment, both of these by default will be set to change the color. But what else can we do? Well, let's go into the pillar bump and see what else we can do. So we've got the color value here, and that's not going to do anything because the other one's blocking all of the color coming through. However, we can change, let's say, the normal here. Now, technically that black and white image that I've created is not a normal map by any stretch of the imagination, but it can, however, control fake bumps on the surface. And that's really cool. In fact, a value of 1 it looks far too high here. So I need to lower that value, perhaps to 0.1. No, that still looks a bit bad. Let's try 0.05. Oh, that was 0.5, so 0.05. That's starting to look much better. Excellent. I think it needs a little less than that, so I'm just going to go from 0.05 to 0.02. That's much better. However, I can see here that it's a little shiny, so I can go in and, well, let's try the specular. If something's being shiny, we control the specular. I'm going to click on color. Yes, that's much better. And I can see here that I can change that up and down, and I can bring some of that shine back if I want to. So that black and white image is changing how much specularity the actual object has itself. And I think that looks pretty good. We're getting some bumps all over the place. It's a good idea to play about with this type of thing to very quickly, without having to move nodes all over the place, to get an idea of what a texture will look like when it's applied to the surface of your model. Obviously, there are pitfalls using Blender Render, like the fact that anything in shadow where light isn't getting to, like around the back here, and, well, it's black. We can't see any detail at all. So there we go, we can continue layering these textures more and more. We could use the alpha channel as well, so we could paint, let's say, my name. I could write my name across here, and then it would appear as if I'd gone in with a spray paint and actually graffiti, but that would be very bad, so we don't want to do that. So with that in mind, I've now got a challenge for you guys. I would like you to add fake detail to your model. Experiment with different setups, perhaps some different textures as well. See how it looks and make any colour or geometry adjustments that you want to do. And share your pillar in your discussions. Pause the video now and give that a go. Okay guys, welcome back. let's go add some more fake detail to our model. Okay, so let's go ahead and add some more detail to this pillar. First of all, I just want an idea of what it's going to look like. So I'm going to have to set up a camera. Now, I don't want to ruin my camera view that's here looking down the church, but you can't see anything else at the moment. That's fine, it's turned off in the view. And in fact, I'm going to turn off the additional things that are not in the view and not being rendered. That's a good combination to have. You can click and drag down there to turn things on and off. Okay, so I need a new camera, so I'm going to select the camera and duplicate it, and that... Oh, camera's not visible. If the camera's not visible, you can't duplicate it. There's our second camera. Brilliant. So now I'm going to call that test camera. That's a good name. Then I can move it about to my heart's content. Now I'm going to switch over to the active camera with Control and number pad 0. Excellent. So I'm now looking through the test camera, and I do need to make sure that I can lock the camera to view. I can zoom round to this area here and have a look at it. So let's zoom straight into it and focus on it with the number pad. Full stop, and then I'm going to render the image and just see what it's looking like at the moment to get an idea of where to go. Okay, so from this I can straight away see that I don't like the way that these are joining here. That's not very nice. It looks a bit too smooth. I think I need a little ridge or something around this. I'm going to add that. And I'm going to add these base texture that I've just applied to this one, to this. If you can reuse something, that's great. It means you don't have to do it again, as long as you're not compromising. And I am going to change this horrible greeny colour that I've got going here as well. So let's hop into the 3D view, and I think I'm going to need a couple of loop cuts at the top and the bottom here. So I'll add those two in, and straight away just scale it out ever so slightly to give it a tiny bulge. And I'll go down here as well, scroll wheel up, and without deselecting anything, give it another tiny bulge. Excellent. So let's go and see what that looks like. Excellent. I really like the way that those are now joined together, and it looks a bit more substantial as well. Brilliant. So let's hop back to the 3D view here, and let's go ahead and apply this to the bottom one as well. So let's select that and go into, I'm going to move this up first of all so I can see more of my textures. So I'm going to remove that texture altogether, and let's go and grab the pillar color and the pillar bump that we've already made. Obviously they're both in color mode at the moment, which I don't want, so I'm going to turn that one off and give it a bit more of a bump down the bottom. I can't remember the value it had. I think it was 0.02 or something along those lines, and that looks like it's applied relatively well apart from this top bit around here. So let's go and see if we can correct that. In fact, before I go and do that, I'm going to actually add a bit more geometry around this top bit here. In fact, it looks like it can be sorted out relatively quickly by not stretching that edge. But I'm going to add a bit of geometry before I go and unwrap or test anything else. So I'm going to shift that up, and you can see that is stretching the texture, so we will have to unwrap to make sure that doesn't look silly. Now I've got that there, I should be able to go into Face Select, select that face loop around there and just scale it out, but not on the Z axis. So Shift and Z to get rid of that. Then I need another loop cut. Great work there, Mike. There we go, that's coming out nicely. And just not as much as a bulge as the one on top, but that one is pretty good. Now we're just going to have to unwrap this again. So I'm just going to unwrap it with its default settings and see how the textures have adjusted. And let's have a look on the UV image editor as well. We've got something being pinned. That's not going to help with our images themselves. So let's unpin, and pressing the E key in the image editor, unwrap it again. Brilliant. And that looks much better around the top here as well. Excellent. So let's hop out there and see how that's looking. I think I actually do need a bit more of a bulge there. That's not quite how I had envisaged it, so I'm going to bring that out there. There we go. That's much better. Okay, so let's see how that looks now. So I'm going to go to, well, I'm in the camera view at the moment. I'm just going to zoom out a little and look up. And I'm going to grab this one at the top as well. And with the properties pane here, let's see what materials are applied to that. We've only got the underlined diffuse texture there. Let's go ahead and add the pillar bump and set it to just the normal at, sorry, what did we say, 0.02. In fact, since it's higher up, let's make it 3. Oh, that is 3, not 0.03. There we go. So let's see how that renders now so we can get an idea of what it's looking like. Excellent, that's looking really good now. The final thing for me to sort out is just that base colour. I'm not liking it at all. So in order to do that, I'm going to find the colour that I like. And I actually like this colour here that I was working with on the top. For some reason I went green. I don't know what was going on there. I think I was messing around with my screen and it looked better than it did. Okay, so we've got this texture here that we can borrow stuff from. So let's, we're in the image editor here. Let's pop onto this here and I'm going to use my grabber here, the pipette, to pick up the right colour, and I'm going to add it to our colour palette as well so I know what it is. Now, because we've already got one image load in, this pillar section, that's just all one colour at the moment, I'm going to cheat a little and literally just paint over the top of that. So I've got the draw there, let's go in, get the right keys as well, that always helps. UV images, so I'm going to go in here and with the brush, not in textured mode though, so I've got this texture mask still turned on. I'm going to turn that off and let's go painting, and we can go over this. Now I must remember to save image. Excellent, that's now saved. If I hop back over to the 3D view, has it updated? Well, it's updated down here but not at the top there, and I did add a bit of detail in there, but I'm willing to lose it for the sake of getting rid of this horrid colour and then coming back and perhaps saving a copy later on and adding further diffuse detail onto that. So let's go ahead here and under texture select pillar colour. There we go, excellent. Let's render that out and see how that looks. Excellent, that looks really good. It looks like I pulled that view, that camera through where the other pillar's situated, but that's okay because it gives me a close-up and what they look like from a distance as well. That's great. How did you guys get on? I'd love to see how your pillars are coming along now, and I will see you in the next video.